On February 16th, 1949, some of the most brilliant scientific minds in the country walked into a room at Los Alamos and couldn't agree on what was falling out of the sky above their own laboratory. Edward Teller was at the blackboard doing the math. An American astronomer by the name of Lincoln LaPaz was arguing the trajectories didn't behave like meteors. And by the end of the meeting, the lab director admitted on the record that the flight path and the silence of those green fireballs remained completely unexplained. That transcript sat classified for 77 years. Last Friday, it became public. It's one of 40 files inside the fourth release of the declassified UAP records from the Department of War. And this batch reaches all the way back to 1948 and comes forward through military encounters recorded as recently as last year, with some of the highlights including info on a nuclear weapons facility in Texas that tracked something on radar that made no sense, no sound, and had no visible engine. A 28-year Air Force and Navy veteran saying he saw something unlike anything in his career. A photograph from the Space Shuttle Columbia, and a Harvard astrophysicist is now telling the public plainly that his own science council has asked the Pentagon for more than 50 additional files that still haven't been handed over. Welcome back to Infinite Rabbit Hole. What's up, everyone? I'm Jeremy Sosha, and you're listening to Infinite Rabbit Hole, your weekly briefing on the unexplained. Tonight, it's just me and Jake, and we're doing something a little different tonight. This past Friday, the Department of War dropped the fourth batch of Pursue files, and there was too much in there to fold into a normal episode. So tonight, we're dissecting the whole release section by section. This one carries some extra weight for me personally, because by the time you hear this, I'll have just come from presenting at MUFON, Wisconsin. So think of tonight as a preview of what I'm sure will be brought up with that crowd, in addition to breaking down the history of Elmwood, Wisconsin, and its history with UFOs. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, make sure you visit us at infiniterabbithole.com, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Real quick, next weekend on July 24th and 25th in Elmwood, Wisconsin, I'll be there presenting and leading bus tours throughout the day with Jake wandering around doing whatever it is that Jake does, and hopefully not tricking me into eating ghost pepper pickles again. Whatever. All right, let's start with the shape of the thing before we get into the specifics. Friday, July 10th, the Department of War published Release 4 under Pursue, that being the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters. 40 files this time. 14 documents, 19 videos, 4 audio recordings, 3 images, all coming from the Pentagon, NASA, the CIA, the FBI, and lastly, the Department of Energy. Together, they span an enormous stretch of time, from 1948 all the way to encounters recorded last year. Sean Parnell, the chief Pentagon spokesperson, confirmed the release with a short statement saying the collection stays housed on war.gov/UFO, and that the department will keep releasing files on a continuously rolling basis. Here's the bigger picture, and I think it matters. This is the fourth drop in a little over 2 months, following releases on May 8th, May 22nd, and June 12th. Across all of them, independent researchers tracking the releases have counted 334 total government records now made public, cataloging more than 2,000 individual UAP cases. We've been watching this build since February, and tonight we finally get a release that doesn't just add more recent footage to the pile. This one reaches back to the very beginning of modern UFO stories and history and hands us the paperwork. So Jake, you ready to sift through 40 more files tonight, man?
I'm actually very ready to sift through 40 more files. Yeah, I tried really hard not to save all of them into the tranche 4 file right here on my my little bookmark area, because I mean, there was some stuff in there that I found that I was like, oh wow, this is goes right into what we've been talking about for a really long time. So I'm pretty stoked about it. And you absolutely are going to be eating another ghost pepper pickle. I'm just not going to tell you in what form it's going to be. It might be end up in a burger you're eating or stuffed into your beer can. I don't know. But one way or another, there's going to be a ghost pepper pickle because, on one hand, I'm a good, reliable friend, and on the other hand, I love laughing at people. So it's like this weird duality of this positioning that I'm in. So we'll see.
Man, if it's anything like last year, it was like 95 degrees, and that bus had no air conditioning. It was hotter than sin out there. If it's the same way, man, and I get a water bottle, ice cold water bottle with just a freaking hot ass
Just
pickle in it,
juice in it.
just gonna be pissed, man.
That's a good thing. Yeah, I'll pour the juice in. That's a good way to do it.
I'm
It'll
gonna
probably
make
be worse,
sure
honestly.
nothing goes in my mouth if it comes from your hands, sir.
What?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like, hey, I bought you a burger over at the Sandbar, and you're gonna be like, I don't trust you. And I'm like, it's fine. And then you're gonna take a bite, and it's gonna be fine. Little do you know, I'm getting ready to mace you. I got it behind my back.
Fun fact: Tom has provided me with a free burger every year. So, yeah, if it's coming from the Sandbar, it's coming from him. I got all the excuses in the world not to take things from your hands, sir.
I guess I'll have to be in cahoots with Tom. Yeah, sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. UFO days, man, it's right around the corner. I cannot wait. It's really exciting stuff. Always an absolute great time. Good family environment. If you got little ones, you got to make it on Sunday. They got the parade. They got the little kid tractor pulls where they get on their tricycles, or the tricycle pulls or whatever they do, man. Oh, it's so cool. And they got the little Caterpillar seats or carts being pulled by tractors and everything. It's just a fun time with kids on Sunday. Saturday, on the other hand, if you're looking for the real UFO Days Festival, Saturday is your day. That's the day. They do all kinds of stuff. And if you want the experience, the adult experience, Saturday. Of course, kids are more than welcome, but Sunday is based around the children. Sunday or Saturday is the festival. Just to put that out there for anybody that's kind of, wondering about the festival and don't know which day to go to. And of course, there's Friday night, which always has a lot of drunk people.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of drunk people. So
I want to say last Saturday, the last one they did it was, and the time before that, I think it's on Saturday. Everyone stays out in the square until like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and they're basically trying to spot UFOs. And actually, we got last year on Sunday, we got some really cool pictures and videos of things that people saw near the quarry and up in the sky. In the near the main event and everything. That was actually pretty interesting. Like, could have been aircraft, but they weren't flashing or anything. And like, I think there was like a red orb and stuff. Like, it was actually pretty interesting. So I might hang out and see if I can, take a nap and then, go for that. Because I mean, shoot, there's a block party last night and I made it to 9 p.m. and I was like, all right, well, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. So yeah.
Look at you, young, and staying up until like the butt crack of dawn.
But yeah, it was. No, it was definitely a lot of fun. And keep in mind too, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some familiar faces there. You're probably going to see Danny over there, who's a huge fan of the show. We love seeing him. Probably going to see Skeeter and his wife. I know that Dean and Sam from our last episode, they're going to be there. So it should be a good time. See some friendly faces and get to come say hi to us. And we'll be selling some merch, some T-shirts. I'll be selling my UFOs and stuff. See if it goes anywhere. I don't know. But yeah, look forward to seeing whoever shows up.
You know what we got to do? We got to get you familiar with the route so you could take half the day. Half the day's worth of tours. That way I can enjoy the festivities as well.
Nope, none for you.
None
Only
for
work. Only work and ghost pepper pickles. That's it. That's all you get.
Work your ass off and then drink this ghost pepper pickle juice. I was gonna say milk. Show me the tits on a pickle. All right. Well, that's enough. Today's episode is solely about the fourth tranche being dropped and its contents. So there's a few things that I found very interesting, and it was really just the black and white boring stuff coming from the some of the bigger files. And of course I took the time to look through them and read them, and you know, there's some stuff that I find very interesting. So I did a lot of the deep dive stuff. Jake got all the really cool pictures and videos ready for us. So we're going to knock out the boring stuff that I want to go over first, and then Jake's going to take over and bring this episode back to life for us. Jake, you ready to go, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just have to open them up individually, like, one at a time, but yeah. I just don't wanna bog down my computer and see it crash again like last time, so.
Well, if you want to bring up file DOE, so Department of Energy UAP D0004 or 004, sorry, 2 zeros. That is the first stint that I have is on that particular file. And for everyone listening, we're going to talk about Los Alamos and Project Twinkle for a little bit. If you're familiar with the stuff that we're doing on Patreon right now, I'm doing kind of like an arc on the relationship between UFOs and, I would say, like the Manhattan Project era of nuclear weaponry. So this falls right in line with that. And those that are on Patreon and haven't seen a new episode release in a while, I just want to apologize. I've actually been sick for close to a month, finally feeling better. Once I get through MUFON this weekend and UFO days next weekend, I will be uploading extras for you guys to enjoy. But without further ado, Jake, you ready to jump in, bud?
Yeah, let's go for it. I'm setting stuff up.
All right. So starting in December of 1948, people around Los Alamos, New Mexico started seeing green fireballs streak across the sky, and not the occasional one-off either. Over the following months, the sightings grew in numbers, and the people seeing them weren't random civilians. They were Los Alamos scientists, military pilots, and intelligence officers at Kirtland Air Force Base. This was happening in the sky directly above some of the most sensitive nuclear installations in the entire country at the height of the atomic age, and nobody in a position of authority could tell what it was. So on February 16th, 1949, a secret conference convened at Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory to figure out what to do about it. This transcript is one of the documents in Release 4, and it's remarkable reading, in my opinion. The lab director, Norris Bradbury, ran the meeting. The Hungarian-American theoretical physicist known as the father of the hydrogen bomb, Edward Teller, was there fresh off the Manhattan Project. Astronomer Lincoln La Paz was there too, and he pushed back hard on the idea that these were just ordinary meteors, specifically citing an event over Starvation Peak that saw sudden yellow-green colors moving nearly horizontally and lasted about 2 seconds. Which is not the profile of a rock burning up on entry, by the way. Fred Raines was in the room years before he'd win the Nobel Prize in Physics. The Atomic Energy Commission was there, the FBI was there, and by the end of the meeting, even Teller, working the numbers at the blackboard, admitted the horizontal flight path was hard to reconcile with a natural meteor. So Bradbury closed the conference on record, admitting that the trajectory and the total silence of these things remained unexplained. No consensus was reached. Nobody in that room with that much combined expertise could tell you what was flying over their own laboratories. Here's the part I think most of us don't know, and it's what I want to highlight the most here. That 1949 conference wasn't the end of it. It's actually the origin point of something called Project Twinkle. Out of that meeting, the Air Force decided they needed to catch these things on instruments instead of just collecting eyewitness reports. Around December of 1949, they stood up a network of observation posts near White Sands and other sites across New Mexico, including a station in the small desert town of Vaughn. The plan involved cinethelite, tracking stations for triangulation, and Mitchell cameras fitted with spectrum gratings, so they could actually analyze the light itself instead of just watching it move across the sky. Unfortunately, Project Twinkle was never fully implemented the way it was designed, and after about 2 years, the whole program was quietly shut down. The final report, released in 1951, concluded that the phenomena were most likely explainable objects, such as airplanes, balloons, rockets, birds, small clouds, or meteorites, and officially, the case was closed. Except there's a second document sitting right alongside the conclusion that complicates the whole tidy ending. A 1949 memo to the FBI director, also part of the public record now, floats a completely different theory, one that isn't natural, isn't foreign, and isn't extraterrestrial. The memo suggests the green fireballs might have been connected to the United States' own classified guided missile testing, on the theory that America was further along in that technology than any other country and simply hadn't told its own investigators what was flying around. So you've got three competing explanations tangled together in the same case file: natural phenomena, foreign adversary technology, and then the possibility that the government was keeping its own investigators in the dark about its own program. And the one project that was actually built to settle the question, well, that got shut down before it could. Jake, any thoughts on this one, bud?
Well, yeah, I mean, it just leans into what we, or many of us, have said on this show, that I wouldn't be surprised if these vehicles that people are seeing are government programs that are, one, in the dark to other government programs or entities, or two, are just so advanced because, I don't know, people just seem to think that we're still flying around in prop planes just because that's the highest level of technology, and that we haven't evolved into the jet engine or anything like that, or beyond, right?
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, if you're completely in the dark, even willing to have different areas of the government in the dark about these other programs that are going on, anything you see that's in that, well, that void that, supposedly doesn't exist is going to seem super alien and super weird until 70 years later it comes out. It's like, oh, well, everyone that observed that is now dead. But if they weren't, I have news for you. It was absolutely tied to programs that you weren't, authorized to know about. And it's like, and maybe that's not the case. This is just an FBI agent, kind of floating this idea, as you said. But still, like, if that is what it is, then it makes a heck of a lot of sense because of how compartmentalized the government is. And yeah, I mean, of course, they wouldn't want our adversaries, whomever they are, to know about the technologies that we have that could, like, delete their society in like 10 seconds, right? Or
Yeah.
something crazy, right? Because we don't want them to have it. So, yeah, I mean, it makes total sense to me, and we're gonna get into a couple things like this in this episode that I found that would just kinda, like, blew my mind, and, it's may or may not be projects that are going on today, but if they are, well, then it would make a heck of a lot of sense as to what people are seeing in the skies.
Yeah. So Project Twinkle was a very interesting chapter in the whole U.S. government tracking UFOs storyline, right? Basically, what was happening in the American Southwest was that a lot of these laboratories that were tied to the Manhattan Project were starting to see these green fireballs in the skies. And they weren't acting like astral bodies falling to Earth, coming in, burning up in reentry. They were they were moving what many were in a way that many were describing as intelligently. And then there was the odd ones that were, instead of what seemed like going with the globe, there it is again, we're going to get beat up for this, but going with the globe, right? They seemed to do a perfectly horizontal route, and it would come very, very close to the ground. And then as it made its way off into the distance, you could see that it was gaining altitude. And a lot of the works that I've read uh, pass that off as they weren't necessarily raising up in altitude, but they were technically just going for a straight heading, and it was the curvature of the Earth that was making it look as if it was moving up.
Sure.
Now, I don't necessarily like that answer. I think that when people go too far to explain that kind of shit, it adds discredibility to it. It's like, man, don't add a reasoning to your experience. And I know a lot of scientists have that habit of doing it. If it looks like it's just going up in the air, man, just say it's going up in the air. And it's something that's always kind of tickled me wrong when it came to Project Twinkle. But the whole purpose of Project Twinkle was to get electronic and digital information on the phenomenon, right? So they had plenty of eyewitnesses. The whole purpose of Project Twinkle was to get it documented, not just, hey, so and so says they saw this. Now it's time to move forward and get actual proof for it. So what this document said basically was the reason why Project Twinkle was shut down. There was a good chance that it was because we were seeing top secret ballistic tests that we were doing. And as we've talked about many times here on the show, is that the government and the military compartmentalization, where certain aspects of the government and the military don't talk to each other and tell them what they're doing. I mean, you and I, we served together and we saw this happen even on the small scale of where we were. I could only imagine this is going to be something that's terrible in the larger scale of things.
Right.
So basically, Project Twinkle was created to get hard proof that this phenomena was happening. And another portion of the government said, hey, we can't do that. We know what this is. This is a ballistics test of really top secret technology, which is theorized to be intercontinental missiles, by the way, roughly about that point. But different kinds. There was a lot of talks about upper stratosphere missiles where instead of it going out and over the horizon, it actually went up into basically orbit and then dropped down out of the sky on top of its target. Instead of traveling across the Earth, it would go up and let the Earth's orbit would do the movement for it, basically. There was a lot of people saying that was one of the potential programs that Project Twinkle inadvertently started documenting. Which, I mean, coming from, here's my shill hat, right? Coming from somebody who understands the importance of top secret programs like that, it makes sense. It makes sense that if we were tracking something that we did not want our adversaries to have any information from, the best way to do that is by documenting it yourself and having it stolen, just like it happened in the the Manhattan Project, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was famously robbed of information from the Russians. So we in order to stop anything else from leaking, the best way to do it is to stop the recording of it from uncontrolled sources. And since there was two different compartmentalized portions of either the government or the military, one of them had to get shut down, and we weren't going to shut down the tests, right? So it makes sense to shut down the tracking program. That's basically it's a good solid answer to something that a lot of people like to talk about in Project Twinkle and the phenomena of green lights in the American Southwest and in the New Mexico area. I kind of talked in circles there. Just go ahead if you have anything.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I'll also put my shill hat on.
Yeah. Well, I have another smaller section here that I would like to get out. Let me see. What else do I have? This one, and I have a couple optional ones, but honestly, I don't think they're that important. But I would like to get this last one out. So let's move on to DOE, again, Department of Energy, UAP D097.
Yeah, this one's dope. I'm looking at it right now.
So let's take a step back from Los Alamos, and this is a quick one, by the way, and look at the bureaucratic side of this release, because there's a real story in the paperwork too. Release 4 includes the Project Sign Progress Report from April 1948. This is the Air Force's very first publicly acknowledged organized attempt to formally study UFOs, predating even the Green Fireballs conference that we just mentioned. It covers roughly 100 sightings from 1947 and 1948, and reading through it, the range of what people were reporting is quite wide. Objects climbing rapidly, hovering for extended stretches, moving anywhere from a crawl to what witnesses describe as supersonic speeds, oval shapes, discs, and saucers, but the sizes and details varied enormously from report to report. The investigators didn't just take everything at face value either. They cross-checked against schedules for illuminated advertising blimps, and they brought in outside expertise, including Nobel Prize-winning chemist Irving Lemire, who came away thoroughly unconvinced, by the way, that any of it represented a real physical phenomenon. At the same time, the report acknowledges that unconventional, low aspect ratio aircraft designs could produce some of what witnesses were describing, and it seriously considers whether the Soviets had gotten their hands on captured German flying wing research and were testing it over American soil. Release 4 also includes correspondence tied to the Scientific Advisory Board review of Project Blue Book from almost 20 years later in 1966 and 67. And this is the detail that I think reframes the entire reputation of the program. Now, Blue Book gets remembered as a PR exercise, a government office whose whole job was explaining sightings away so the public would stop asking questions. But sitting on the review committee was our friend Carl Sagan. And the committee's actual conclusion wasn't to shut it down. It was that Blue Book's methods needed serious improvement, and that the Air Force should bring in university-affiliated scientific teams to properly investigate the cases that didn't have easy answers. The Secretary of the Air Force accepted that recommendation, by the way. None of this, though, proves Blue Book was secretly sitting on evidence of alien spacecraft. What it does prove is that some of the most credible scientific minds in the country, working from the inside, thought the government's own investigation wasn't rigorous enough, and they said so on paper decades before any of us could read it. So before I hand it over to you, Jake, I just want to fill in the whole reason why I did this write-up. What I found the most interesting here, there's always been this kind of gap where you had Project Blue Book, and then something called the Condon Committee came up, and this was done at the University of Colorado. And the Condon Committee is infamous for saying that there's absolutely nothing to UFOs. The Condon Committee, from this document that we're reading here, or you're looking at, actually was birthed by recommendation from Carl Sagan. Now, Carl Sagan, he was not an advocate for crazy UFO conspiracy theories, right? I mean, he really looked at a lot of the phenomenon through the eyes of, the most brilliant scientific mind that we've had in modern days, right? I'm not talking Albert Einstein. I'm just talking, over the last half century or so. And he didn't say that everything in Project Blue Book was stupid and dumb and worthless. What he said was, you guys have a lot of stuff here. You should take it more seriously and get colleges involved, universities involved. So Project Blue Book took that, and instead of doing it the way that Carl Sagan said that they should do it, what really happened was this was the birth of the Condon report, or the Condon Committee, out of the University of Colorado. And instead of them taking a real good scientific look at it, the Condon Committee was literally created to just destroy the concept of UFOs. This was very famously a kill switch for getting the public to no longer be interested in UFOs. And that's what Project Blue Book necessarily was created for, was to just kind of actually Project Grudge, which would have been the second adaptation. So it would have went Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book. Grudge was absolutely the worst of the three. But Project Blue Book never, on the surface at least, never really let go of the concept of Project Grudge, where they were out there to dissuade the public of any extraterrestrial, any non-human influence on behalf of the UFO phenomena. And the Condon Committee took that to the next step and really shut down the Air Force, or the Air Force used the Condon Committee to officially shut down Project Blue Book. That's literally the end of Project Blue Book. So now we have that missing puzzle piece of, hey, how did the Air Force and Project Blue Book really come about in employing the University of Colorado and the Condon Committee to create the Condon Report? I thought it was fascinating, but I'm also like a history nerd when it comes to UFOs and its history in the in the Americana of things, if you will.
No, I agree. I mean, it's interesting that they talk about the German flying wing, and then they have pictures of it. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know if anyone's listening to this on audio, especially for the tranche ones. We bring up a lot of visuals, and we will be here after this. But I was just scrolling through pictures from one of these documents that definitely show what it appears Kenneth Arnold first talked about when he said that he saw a like a crescent moon type aircraft, and then the media ran with it, the local news, and said that it was a saucer, and then the saucer phenomenon blew up from there. But I mean, they're real vehicles, But yeah, it's interesting to bring up another project that basically kills a project before that, and then they don't say anything about it.
yeah. Well, that's pretty much all I had, Jake, for the night. That was me doing my nerd thing and kind of goofing off with some of the more boring stuff. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the exciting things. Let's see some cool visuals, man.
Sure. Let me start queuing some stuff up. So I got definitely some videos to look at, as well as, ooh, let's see. Let's see if I can do this where it just shows. Can I do the whole window? I can. Nice. Oh, that's
Oof.
weird.
Yeah, it's super
That's
weird.
weird looking. I'm gonna go ahead and move this guy over. There we go. That's better. So, okay, let's go ahead and go into. I did save a whole bunch of stuff, so we'll get into some interesting videos here and images. So this one's from East China Sea in 2025. Actually, this is the one I wanted to look at. This is it in full screen for you?
It's close enough.
Okay, but dude, it's like a straight up jellyfish.
Yeah, the jellyfish UFO thing it seems to be more prevalent than I think anybody really gave it credit to be. And I know that we're seeing a lot of this pop up in, the modern story of UFOs. And a lot of people are seeing this as like the modern adaptation of UFOs. There's this whole thing going around historically about UFOs and how they seem to mimic what our expectations of them are. So like when we had Dr. Dean Bertram and Sam on, Dr. Dean was talking about how, like in the late 1890s, they had the airships, and these were mostly reported as like anywhere from these metallic craft to blimps, right? But the
Right.
reality of it is the birth of aviation here in America from the Wright brothers hadn't even really occurred yet, right? Commercialized flight really hasn't happened. So it was more or less that what we expected to see in the sky is what we were seeing. And as you start seeing these things or as history moves on, you hit World War II, and now we had the Foo Fighters and the Ghost rockets, right? Ghost rockets were thought to be German V2 rockets, right?
Right.
And that's where they got the name from them, and they were specifically in the Scandinavian area of the world. Um, again, it's what we expected to see in the sky because there was these massive rumors of the V-2 rockets being tested and used during World War II. We were expecting to see them. Foo Fighters, right? Foo Fighters were balls of light that were chasing both Allied and enemy craft. Um, we it symbolized the next step in technology is basically what we're looking at, right? Um, when Kenneth Arnold came out and said that he saw these boomerang shaped craft in the sky over Washington while he was flying in 1947, and the AP Newswire misquoted him as saying flying saucers. Instead, what he did say, by the way, is that they moved in the sky as if saucers on water, and
Right.
that kind of got mixed into being flying saucers. And now, ever since 1947, one of the most prevalently reported UFOs or objects seen was the flying saucer, right? So it was what we were expecting to see. Now, what we're seeing, it seems like we're getting inundated with these jellyfish UFOs, and it's almost like whatever's behind them is trying to show us the next step of what's the most recent technology, right? Drones. And
Mhm.
that's what it kind of looks like, right? If I heard this really interesting theory that UFOs are the physical embodiment of uh, a secretive, maybe even futuristic AI. And if you're trying to, if you're an AI and you're trying to show humans or show up as something recognizable, right? We know AI is not perfect. It doesn't necessarily have the best human point of view in mind when it's doing the task that it's doing. This is kind of what you would expect it to come up as. But one thing that we're seeing from the drops, especially in the fourth tranche, is that these UFOs, these jellyfish UFOs, are actually older than modern day. What was the date on this one? I think this one was recently,
This
right?
is
This
2025. Yep, East
Yeah,
China
okay.
Sea.
So this was just a couple years ago, but there's a couple other ones that we've seen that are from more than 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
So it's nice to see this stuff because it kind of shows you that it's not a recent phenomenon. This is something that has been reported, recorded, and documented and stored by the U.S. Department of War or the Department of Defense back then, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. I think that all these videos are really interesting. Now, this particular one, I'm I'm personally not too excited about this one. I feel like there could be mundane answers to this. This looks like it could be a bundle of balloons, right?
Could be, yeah.
Am I saying that it is? No. Now, it's also difficult to say exactly what setting that this IR system is in. If I had to guess, it's in white hot. Does it have a timestamp for the day? Does it say what time of day this was? Zero.
Mm,
Oh, so
yeah,
these are early morning. This is after midnight.
this guy right here.
So I take that back. This actually looks like it's probably black hot, which means that that item is cold. So my thoughts was the reason why I thought this was white hot is because the sun obviously is at the top of the sky, and if you're looking at IR, it's the sun facing portions of the cloud that would show up white hot, right? And you can see the gradient of these clouds go from white to dark as they move from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen. And that's kind of the reverse at night, right? So reverse at night, it's cooler out, and if there's no heat source coming from space, really, all that heat is stored at the bottom of these clouds. So this actually Jake, might be black hot setting. I wish that they had I wish they wouldn't black out the settings on these, because this all the settings that you're supposed to be able to see is all blocked out on these
Right,
videos.
it's all redacted. It's
I
all the
hate that.
side information, which is very strange that they
I
did that.
I hate that they're doing it. There was a video that we watched in one of these episodes about, I think it was on Tranche 2, where somebody had gotten the unredacted version of it, and just because you looked at the the information from the FLIR, it answers the question. It was, remember that rapid acceleration video that we dissected?
Yeah.
Okay, so it had all the redacted information around it. Somebody on Twitter or X posted the unredacted version of it, and right when it takes off, Jake, the zoom count shows that it zooms in incredibly fast at the exact moment. So the what looked to be acceleration wasn't acceleration at all. It was the camera zooming in.
Uh,
It wasn't. So like, you have these settings on FLIRs, right? Especially military FLIRs, where
mhm.
you can slowly zoom in, but just like on your phone, where you can hit 1.6, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, you can instantly get that 10 times zoom. You could do that on a FLIR as well. So what looked like instantaneous acceleration to us wasn't. It was literally right when that thing takes off, the zoom zoomed in.
Mm.
So there are, there's a lot of things to pick at that too. Like, somebody in the comments brought up a good point on that particular video, was that, hey, the zoom says it zoomed in, but the clouds don't look closer. That's a good point, right? I don't
Right.
have any rebuttal for that. So was this somebody just bullshitting a, redacted video and just putting up bullshit numbers and creating an answer for themselves to get some kind of notarization from? Good chance, good possibility. But if we had the data from these videos, we could tell things like that,
Mhm.
especially timestamps. If we knew what time of day this stuff really occurred on,
Right.
because we don't know, honestly, in the China Sea, those timestamps could be in Zulu time, Jake. And if it's in Zulu time, then it could be in the middle of the day. I mean,
Yeah, that's a good point.
you know damn well that when we had all the electronics, or the glass cockpits, right? We worked off Zulu time a lot.
Sure.
So if they're given Zulu timestamps, then it very well could be white hot.
Shoot, I mean, the airplanes I work on now, I mean, they have their clocks are set up to not local time. It's all set up to wherever else, but it'll be, it'll. I was messing with doing an operational check the other day, and it was, I think, probably around 11 a.m. and the time on the clock said 1700, and then I had to pull the circuit breakers and then reset it and then push the circuit breakers back in and make sure that it, after I changed the clock manually and then reset it, that it would return back to whatever time frame that was, wherever that is in the world. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
it was something like that. It was like 8 hours off or something, right? Where it's just like, okay, I don't know why, but I mean, I guess that's so that it's not relying on any sort of satellite communication in case it loses it. And the pilots would just be like, okay, we're in this time zone. So +3, -3, whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah.
-2, +2. So, but yeah, it was interesting. So, yeah, I agree. I mean, it could very well be a completely different time zone. And shoot, if it's Zulu time, I mean, Korea is 14 hours ahead of us, or
Yep.
at least on the East Coast, 15 hours ahead of us here in the Central. So honestly, what time is that for this locally? I have no idea. You know?
I want to. There's another. I think it's like Greenwich Mean Time, I think, is the civilian term for Zulu time. Let me get a good definition for. I'll go ahead and share this. I just want to kind of create a civilian definition for Zulu time so everyone kind of tracks what we're talking about here. So I just put right here in Google, what is Zulu time, right? So at the time of this recording, we are recording this at 4:59 p.m. Central Time, U.S. Okay, Zulu time is 9:59. So it's exactly 5 hours ahead of where we're at right now. What is Zulu time? The AI overview says Zulu time is another name for Coordinated Universal Time or Greenwich Mean Time. It is the universal time standard based on the prime meridian of zero longitude in Greenwich, England. Used globally in aviation, military, and weather forecasting. It provides a consistent 24-hour clock unaffected by local time zones or daylight savings time. So just so you guys know what Zulu is, right? And why it would be important to know what those timestamps are in. And this isn't, something that I see anybody really talking about when it comes to dissecting these videos. It's extremely important because let's take that video that we're just looking at, Jake, right? If it's in white hot, whatever the object was white. So that means it would be hot, right?
Right.
What are the explanations for a hot object of that shape? Not a lot, man. Not a lot. That's where shit gets weird. But let's say it's in black hot, right? So that means that if it's showing up white, it's cold. Well, guess what balloons are full of? Helium.
Yeah.
Helium's gonna be cold, right?
Sure.
It's not gonna show up as a hot source on an infrared camera, that's for sure. So if this is in black hot, then it's a very good chance that we're just looking at a balloon here. But if it's in white hot, which honestly I think it is, I would say that those timestamps are probably Zulu time, most likely, and that we're looking at something in white hot. So take that with a grain of salt, right?
Right.
Unanswered. And I would think that this is even part of the tranche, part of the unexplained area, because those stamps are in Zulu time, which makes that white hot if it's over the South China Sea, you said? Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to be all long-winded on that or anything, but
I mean, it's a good explanation, at least as far as like how these things should be looked at and dissected. I mean, just like this other one that I'm about to pull up with the line going through the clouds, like this thing is weird looking. But again, it's in like if you were to look at local time and just take the timestamps, it would be you know, 30 minutes past midnight. So it's like why are the clouds so, why are they so easily visible, and
mhm.
is this thing showing lights, is it not, what heat signature is it? And again, like I'll show here in just a second, all of these all the settings are redacted, so you
Yeah.
just kind of have to guess. But this one's a trip. This one looks like a scene from the movie Independence Day, like you'd expect the rest of the ship to then burst out of the cloud layer type stuff. So you can see it up in here, right there, that line, and then the camera's gonna adjust a couple more times, and it's gonna get a little bit more clear. But it's very strange looking. There we go.
Look at that.
What is that, right?
Now, wow.
So this is also uh was it over the China Sea? This is in 2024. But what is that? Is that a reflection off of something? Is that a line of lights? I can tell you for one, that is definitely not Starlink because I've seen Starlink.
Uh,
Or could it be a line of drones for some reason flying over? I mean, sure, I guess, but what's their range and how far is it going? Like, we don't know because all of this information is all redacted right here. So you can't see, you know, the longitudinal coordinates or whatever of the camera and everything like that. You can't see, its settings and everything, but this is absolutely a trip. Let me see if I can go back to where it was kind of zoomed in more. There we go.
what I would like to know, the information I want to know from this is altitude. I want to
Right.
know where this is. Obviously, the camera looks as if it's looking up in the sky. And from, just seeing how the phenomenon, the object or whatever it is, I hate to use the word interacting, but interacting with clouds, right?
Mhm.
It's definitely behind the cloud cover, which means this isn't a flock of geese,
Right.
right? Can geese fly through low cloud cover? Yes, but that's not what you're seeing here. I want to say that this is in white hot. I would expect this to be in white hot. And yeah, man, maybe it could be a swarm of drones, but is the atmosphere thick enough that high? This is why it's important to know the altitude of what it's targeting. Think of it like a rangefinder, right? A lot of people will go and they'll spot wildlife with rangefinders and find out that it's 300 yards away. There's a deer out there 300 yards away.
Sure.
That's the information that we need right here to see how far whatever that is away from the camera, and we're not going to get that. But that looks like it's extremely far away. It definitely looks like a light source, and
Yeah, you can see it right here when the video first starts. I mean, it's definitely have to zoom in quite a bit to get it.
you know what else I would love to see in this too?
Hmm.
I would love to see this not in IR. I want to see what that looks like when it's not in infrared.
Right.
Because I'm willing to bet that whatever that is completely disappears behind the clouds. Whatever it is definitely behind the clouds, but people are going to look at this and see that they can still see it through the clouds and not necessarily understand that with IR, you can see through clouds just fine. So I would love to see how this looks in not IR, man. I'd like to see this in real life. I think this is very, very interesting. I have no idea what the fuck this could be.
And it looks like the line is moving too, so it's not like if you had just a disc with a bunch of lines on it moving, right? It looks like it's kinda waving a little bit, the dots are spacing out.
Yeah.
In one of these really close shots, you can see a couple of the dots are kinda behind it at one
Uh-huh.
point where they look like they're kinda falling behind a little bit, so it's just super strange.
Yeah, it's like they're
Down
fluid.
here, this one kinda pops back. There's another one around this area once it kinda zooms in a little bit more that's kinda further back and everything.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's definitely doing this, like, waving motion. But could that be what people are talking about, like, some sort of, like, a craft that's more of, like, a fluid or a plasma or something like that, and this is a reflection coming off of it
Mm-hmm.
or something? I don't know. But this is probably one of the weirder videos we've seen. Oh, there you go. You can see something trailing
Yeah.
behind right there. So this is definitely one of the weirder videos that we've seen. And see, there's a gap right here, and there's one popping out and trailing behind. But yeah, no idea. And I can tell you, it's not, it's not aircraft. I mean, the Blue Angels get pretty close, but they're not in formations like this, you know.
Did
And
you see that Blue Angel that almost hit onlookers at Pensacola?
no,
You didn't? Oh, we should watch that real quick. I'll bring it up.
I mean, they
Watch
get
this,
close,
bro.
but they're not in a formation where there's 100 of them in a line flying all at once and then kind of bouncing around and stuff. Like that's not a thing that happens. So I don't know what this is, but I can tell you it's not a bunch of aircraft. And that kind of makes me wonder, like, could it be drones too? Because drones, way they do the displays and stuff, they're programmed to be in a specific spot. They don't really move around unless they're told to move around. They're in a pattern and stuff like that. So if it was just a straight line where they're constantly in the same, you know, same pattern going all the way through, you could be like, okay, well, that seems more like drones. But this weird sort of like wavy sort of thing that it's doing is very, very strange.
You ready, Jake? Watch this. This is down in Picola.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Bro.
right, dude. That's not anybody.
Oops.
Yeah, anybody. Okay, so Jake and I, we went to school in Pensacola, and we'd see the Blue Angels practicing all the time, and that's not normal. Somebody done fucked up right there.
Whoops. Yeah.
That's not normal. Somebody's going to captain's mast for that shit.
Holy moly. That could have been a really, really bad oops.
Yeah, really bad oops. That definitely looks like somebody was trying to show off a little too hard and lost control of the beast there. All right, man, back to you. Sorry, I just wanted to show that.
No, it's fine. Jeez. Okay, so this is from the Yellow Sea, United States Indo-Pacific Command submitted a report of anomalous phenomena to the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. 4 minutes and 57 seconds of the video footage from an electro-optical and infrared sensor system aboard a U.S. military platform in 2023. So, timestamp, yeah, 01 a.m. Zulu time, I suppose. This is going over the water, and I think I saved this one because the camera zooms in and it's like a very strange shape. See, oh, there we go. It looks like a chair. It looks like an office chair, like the one I'm sitting in right now, flying over the water, just absolutely hauling ass. See, I think it zooms in a little bit closer at one point. Let me see if I can scrub through. There we go. Now that could just be angles of the object itself and what's being, where the light's reflecting and stuff. It could be more round or more oval than that, but still really weird. Just more, orbs or whatever they are, just sailing over the water. Obviously not touching it physically, but what would be a real trip is if this thing just dunked into the water, you know?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of people try to explain this away. I'm trying to get the exact name, but I can't seem to find it. But there's this weird artifact that happens with some cameras where you get like this weird triangulation of objects, and it has to deal with light reflecting in the lens a certain way. But one thing that tends to kill that effect is zoom. And as you see, there's multiple instances in this video of zooming in. Now,
Mhm.
what I do like about this video is that you can look at this and know that this is white hot. Okay. How do I know it's white hot? Because we have a known cold in this. So the best evidence for knowing whether a FLIR is in white hot or black hot is to have a known cold or a known hot. So there was one video that we dissected a few weeks ago during one of the trenches where we saw an obviously just used car, right? The motor, the engine was still
Yeah.
I think it was black, right? I think it ended up being black hot, and all the other cars around it were cold, right? This was
Mhm.
the only one that was just clearly just used. You could see the heat waves coming off of it in the FLIR. That is a known hot. Here we have a known cold. Known cold is the ocean, right? If the ocean is
Right.
showing up gray, then this is in white hot. Simple as that, right? We can use the sky, but the sky gets influenced by the sun,
Mhm.
right? Um, so cloud cover is going to look different whether or not it's during the day or during the night. The good thing is that the ocean is always going to look cold, no matter where, even at the equator in the middle of the day. It's going to show up cold in FLIR. So whatever this object is, it has energy. Energy gets shown up as white in FLIR white hot. Ooh, is that? Can you zoom in on that? Was that it with it not being FLIR?
I believe so.
That was interesting.
See, when it gets there, I'll pause it. Yeah,
Yeah,
black object on the blue water.
check that out. See, just having that bit of data right there where we can see it in a more natural filter, right, is
Right.
extremely important. This is a darker object shown in FLIR as shining white. Whatever it is, it's got a heat source.
Mhm.
Very interesting. It's definitely not a fucking balloon. That's
Right.
simple as that. That's not a balloon. That is something odd right there. That's a good catch there, Jake. That's neat. Very neat.
I don't know. Pretty strange. Still not gonna jump on the alien bandwagon, but pretty strange.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not jumping on no alien bandwagon either, but it is definitely very strange, man.
Alright, let's see. So this one is Middle East 2023. We're going backwards. Some of the articles and stuff I want to look at are pretty interesting, or the documents and stuff I want to look at are pretty interesting, but they're going to be more towards the end. But just kind of going backwards right now. Um, so this is timestamp midnight, and two areas of contrast transit the sensor field of view. The first enters the field of view from the bottom right and exits from the top edge of the frame. The second, relatively smaller area of contrast enters from the top and exits the bottom of the frame. So this is a 10-second clip, so it's gonna be quick, but it's kind of zips by. Let's see if I can pause it in time. Oh, there it is.
What?
Whatever that was. That, oh, man. Yeah, this one's tough. Well, I saw it and I was like, okay." So it looks like it's going too fast or it's flashing with this thing in front of the camera. Whatever this is, and then this rod thing that kinda shoots by at the same time. So I don't know
Again,
what this red dot is in the center. I don't know, it might be lasing right now.
yeah.
Might be, I don't know. But yeah, that
Whatever.
thing going by and then immediately afterwards, that rod that shoots by.
So what you're looking at here, okay, for anybody that looks at this is satellite imagery. This is not a forward-looking infrared coming from a standard military aircraft. Now, could this be something high flying like an E-2D? It could, right? It may not necessarily be satellite cameras, but whatever this is extremely high altitude. That's all I can say. You can tell, one, by the amount of data that's there. This data there from high altitude photos, they have and that is so weird. Look at the rod, man.
Mhm.
Huh. Well, weird.
And it's fast. I don't know if it's going, I mean, I don't know obviously what their altitude is, but this thing is either super close to them or it's freaking gigantic down there.
Huh.
And it's
Very, very weird.
yeah, strange stuff. Okay, so this is one of the ones that I really wanted to get into. Okay, so this is I was scrolling through just the documents, and it says this file contains reports, memoranda, and a correspondence concerning various then developmental vertical takeoff and landing (VTOL)
Hmm.
aircraft. The file includes assessments of the experimental potential of the Avro Project Y2, a joint US Canadian near circular VTOL aircraft that is similar in appearance to contemporary popular descriptions of unidentified flying objects. A 1954 memorandum opines that VTOL aircraft with a circular platform may be mistaken for UFOs to observers unfamiliar with such technologies.
Hmm.
It also recommends that UFO reports in the vicinity of Soviet military operations or assets be re-examined to assess whether they may be attributable to previously unknown advanced VTOL aircraft of foreign design. So this is something that I was like, "Okay, well, that's interesting." But I don't know if there's any images inside of this document itself. Wouldn't be surprised if there isn't, but I did go ahead and check out what these, vertical takeoff and landing vehicles look like in the, just doing a Google search, and oh my goodness, if this is a thing that is going on today, then this is exactly what we're talking about, especially in relationship to uh, the Project Twinkle and stuff that we were just talking about. So this is an
Huh.
article from historynet.com. This is that vehicle that they're talking about. All right. Well, this is that aircraft. This is what we're talking about when we say government programs that no one knows what's happening and then people start seeing it. This is the thing right here.
And what was the name of the aircraft?
This is a VTOL that was, let's see, this was the Avro Project Y2, a joint U.S. Canadian near circular VTOL aircraft.
It was originally developed by Canada.
Now, I'm curious if this is something that is still around, but in a much more advanced way. And when people see flying saucers, they're seeing this. Because obviously, this was turbine driven.
Yeah.
Um, but if we've moved to technologies as past turbines, uh, and maybe into anti-gravitational or whatever, and people are seeing the, you know, latest and greatest generation of this aircraft, this would really lay hard into what people are seeing. Plus, as you know, and I know, working on or around MQ8s, that they don't even need pilots anymore. They can absolutely use drones for
Mm-hmm.
uh, well, I mean, they can absolutely use AI and or RC for drones and things like that. So this could be an aircraft that's in existence today in a much newer fashion that doesn't even have a pilot. This blew my mind when I saw this. I was like, "You gotta be freaking kidding me!"
It's very interesting. And there's a lot of photos for this.
Hmm.
Apparently, they were never really able to get it more than about 5 feet off the ground, though. That seems to be the issue with it. On the cover, at least,
Right, sure.
that's what
So
they're
yeah.
telling the public. Interesting. Good
Hmm.
find, Jake. Good find.
Thanks, dude. Let
What
me
else you
see
got
if
for us?
I can get into this ding dang thing.
The ding dang thing, huh?
So I'm gonna pull this guy up. See if I can pull a date from this. No, looks like not. So, okay, this file contains a U.S. Air Force Intelligence Division study analysis of flying objects. Oh yeah, 1948. Analysis of flying objects incidents in the United States. Study number 203, dated December 10th, 1948. The analysis includes an assessment of various reported unidentified flying object incidents and theories to account for their nature and origin. Overall, the study assesses that it appears that some object has been seen. However, the identification of the object cannot be readily accomplished. The study offers that two reasonable origins might account for the phenomena: technologies of a domestic or foreign origin. It also suggests that, if foreign, it is prudent for the United States to assume that UFO observations are attributable to scientific, military, or intelligence activities of of the Soviet Union, and in that case, to take seriously the threat of that such objects may pose. The file also contains contemporary UFO reports and examples of experimental flying wing type aircraft platforms that might account for certain commonly reported UFO characteristics.
I looked at this one too. This was interesting.
Let
Trying
me.
to think if this is before I talk. I want to see what you're able to bring up after downloading it because I want to make sure it's the right one.
So this is kind of in relation, same images as the
Mm-hmm.
one I was showing when we talked briefly about Kenneth Arnold and his sighting. Actually, this looks a lot like
I was gonna
that
say
line.
that looks pretty familiar there, friend.
That looks like that line that was in that 2024 video or
It
2025
does.
video.
It does.
Let's see.
Cigar shaped craft.
Mhm.
See a lot of reports on those. Another one.
Mhm.
Interesting.
All the way back from 48.
Yeah, this is
Almost like they've been BSing us for a very long time.
the
Weird. Weird.
almost like.
Yes. You could
Uh,
say it rings a bell that if someone were to be like, "Ah, government's been BSing us," and then we saw pictures like this from 48 and 47, you might be able to be like, "Hmm, perhaps."
how dare you accuse your government?
Man, look at that old piece of shit.
Oh, look at that hunk of shit. That's
No,
funny.
that looks like a first rendition of like a B-2.
It does. It does.
Take the wings off, kinda the similar type cockpit, engines kinda on the sides like that versus, any other type of plane. Oh, there you go.
That's interesting. That was definitely done.
Experimental Flying Wing Aircraft is what it says. Armstrong Whitworth.
Whitworth Air Force Base. It's around Area 51.
There you go. Oh, there's that. Oh, look at that. That looks like a bomber shape too. But
That is
imagine
definitely a bomber shape.
imagine that in a so obviously they're using props here. They didn't have a what we'd consider a jet engine for this one. But imagine seeing something like that when at the time you're way more used to seeing, what classic World War II aircraft look like. And then you see something like this, and then you say, "Hey, I just saw a UFO." And the government says, "No, you're out of your mind. Sorry."
I actually want to retract that about Whitworth. I don't think there's a base called Whitworth. I think I'm thinking of Whiteman,
Oh,
which
sure.
is it's in Missouri, but still was part of the it provided craft for a lot of that top secret stuff that was done um, during all the nuclear testings out near Area 51.
hmm Look at how high up this thing is. And that would
That
trip me the heck out if I didn't know that there was, I mean, a good majority of, I'd say 99.9% of people that existed here in the United States had no idea that this aircraft was in existence. And
mm-hmm.
here it is flying high AF
High
over.
AF.
I mean, look, that's a river down there, right? Going
Yeah,
through a canyon of some kind or some hills. I mean, seeing this thing up in the sky just randomly could definitely cause alarm. And then of course the government says nothing about it. They don't bring it up. Here's another one flying way up there.
that's odd.
Yeah. So these were absolutely able to get up off the ground. This isn't an AI image of, or, as far as we can tell, this is not an AI image of, something that they're like, oh, yeah, here's the explanation. This is something that was flying through the air. It was able to achieve lift. And someone probably saw this and said, I just saw a UFO. And then they were told. And I wonder how many people died thinking I saw a alien UFO or something, as they got older, and then here we are in
Yep,
2026 seeing these images and being like, "Wow, well, there it is. That's what, people are talking about. This another really weird shaped plane looks
yep.
just like a disc," you know? So, and just to think where these projects went from there. I mean, obviously these are old school prop planes, but where has this technology and this shape, if this is able to create lift and actually take off, where has this gone from there? Is there benefits to a aircraft that's shaped like this? I don't know.
Short answer, probably not, but
Well, we know for this one there is,
there is definitely for that one.
right?
Yep.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that was.
That's that crazy compartmentalization we're always talking about. And oh, military and experiment and black budget project aircraft that no one knows about. Well, here we are learning about it from,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these look like they might be like first renditions of like the
yeah,
B-2, you know?
definitely precursors, right? So, very interesting stuff. Yeah, this trench was very cool. A lot of really interesting things that came out of it for sure. Yeah, so I mean, obviously you can see where I was like, I don't want to save everything, but
That it? That all you got for us tonight?
no, no.
No.
Oh, this was the first thing I saw the about Blue Book. This file documents the 1966 to 1967 deliberations and recommendations of the U.S. Air Force Scientific Advisory Board ad hoc committee to review Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book was a 1952 to 1969 U.S. Air Force program to investigate the nature and origin of unidentified flying objects. The committee recommended that the U.S. Air Force contract a scientific team composed of a university affiliated of university-affiliated representatives to investigate selected UFO sightings. The U.S. Air Force subsequently adopted the committee's recommendation.
This is what I was referencing.
Yeah. Wow.
This is where the Condon Committee came in.
Mhm. Yeah, just absolutely nuts. Just it's amazing the amount of and look, here's all the people that that were on it. The
Yeah.
chairman who it was. It's just
Yep.
amazing that for so long, all of this information has just been in the realm of conspiracy theorists and um, you know, secret government programs, and now we're just getting access to all of it. And I mean, I doubt we're going to get any access to the actual research of it and the scientific studies and everything. But just seeing it on paper is absolutely phenomenal.
It's
Which,
historical, man. It's
like,
nuts.
I'll put my I'll eat my words on this one. The fact that I didn't think that anything was going to come of this, is absolutely wrong. So I'm not gonna throw out like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm not gonna surprise you guys with a book that I wrote about it, but I can absolutely say that I was wrong in saying that it was all BS and that nothing was gonna actually happen. So super excited about the uh, the unsealings and the tranche updates and everything that's going on. That's just absolutely crazy to me that we're actually getting stuff like this.
I love it. I absolutely love it. What you got there, friend?
This was uh unidentified object intruding the airspace above the Pantex plant near Amarillo, Texas. The Pantex
Yes.
plant is a sensitive national security site that contains the primary facility for the assembly, disassembly, maintenance, and life extension of nuclear weapons. Page
Yep.
5 and 6 of this report was originally released under the Pursue initiative in a more redacted form on May 22nd, 2026.
Want to say so? Yeah. Okay. So I actually have a write up for this.
Yeah, I should read it out.
So this is one of the ones where I was like, I'm not gonna bore you with too much boring stuff, but I do have a write up on this one. Yeah. Fuck it. Let's do it. Now let's come all the way forward to the cases that actually feel current, because release 4 isn't just historical archaeology. There's real modern material in here too. The one that stands out most is a 2015 incident report from the Pantex plant near Amarillo, Texas, one of the country's primary nuclear weapons assembly and security facilities. Ground surveillance radar picked up an unknown object moving north at roughly 10 to 15 miles an hour. Security gates were secured, patrols repositioned to protect sensitive assets, and personnel tracked the object as it moved across the site and eventually off of it. Witnesses described something roughly diamond shaped, but more rounded at the top, about 4 feet tall and 2 feet wide at the base, though the color reports varied widely. From black to silver to red to blue. Security officers tracked it with a remotely operated weapons system camera while the other personnel watched through binoculars. No sound, no propulsion system anyone could identify. The video was sent to Sandia National Laboratories for further review. To be fair to the mundane explanation, a balloon fits a lot of this, including the slow drift and the changing appearance in different light. But this wasn't a single fleeting light in the sky. This was radar, multiple trained witnesses, camera tracking, and video all converging on the same object over a nuclear weapons facility. Then there's a 2019 Range Fowler report from the eastern United States. Range Fowler is the Navy standard term for an unauthorized object entering controlled military airspace. An observer with 28 years of combined Air Force and Navy service watched a small object below his aircraft, moving fast in the opposite direction, and later said it was unlike anything he'd seen in his entire career. He tracked it for 10 to 15 seconds before it moved out of frame. When the sensor zoomed in and 4 other personnel on the same flight also couldn't identify it. I want to be fair to the skeptical read here too, by the way. Without a reliable distance to the object, you genuinely can't calculate its real size or speed, and something small and close can look identical to something huge and fast when you're viewing it from a moving aircraft. That doesn't make the testimony worthless, though. It just means the file alone can't settle it. Other cases in the same batch of range Fowler reports include a dark marooned object over the Atlantic, 12 to 15 feet, drifting with the wind like an oddly shaped balloon, and a small metallic object with a reflective underside moving in a consistent or constant direction, different enough from each other that they're probably not even the same category of thing. The newest material in the release comes from 2025 out of the Indo-Pacific. There's infrared video over the Yellow Sea showing what looks like a six-pointed star-shaped object, plus footage from the East China Sea and a formation of objects over the South China Sea. The star shape is the one that's been circulating online because it looks so visually dramatic. But here's the honest caveat, straight from Avi Loeb himself, who now chairs the government's UAP Science Advisory Council. He said on CBS that this could easily be a diffraction pattern created by the camera's own optics. That's the pattern I was looking for, by the way, the diffraction pattern created by the camera's own optics, not the actual shape of a physical object. A point of light passing through certain lenses or sensors can take on a geometric shape that has nothing to do with what's actually up there. That's not Loeb dismissing the case, though. That's Loeb telling you what real analysis requires before you can trust what your eyes are showing you. So basically what I was saying was, when I said the way around that is by zoom, right? If you zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, that pattern, that geometric pattern that is an artifact of some settings on cameras
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't necessarily follow with the zoom. Zooming is one way to almost completely eliminate that effect. So that one particular video that we were watching when zoomed in and zoomed out proved that we weren't looking at the effect I had just mentioned.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, so I know that one had a couple different things thrown in there. It wasn't just this one, but I did use it to write that particular one up.
Yeah, super cool. Where did it come from and where did it go?
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Come on, man.
Where'd you come from? UAP flying over the base, Joe. Let's see.
Let's do one more. Or if you don't have any more, then that's fine too.
More a good one. I got a video.
Perfect.
Okay, this is East China Sea 2025. Timestamp is, yeah, from 001 to 020 or 0135. Oh, never mind. We've already seen this one. This is a balloon. Oh, we have not seen this one yet. Okay. This is from Gulf of America 2019. The United States Air Force submitted a report of an unidentified anomalous phenomenon to the All-Domain Anomalous Resolution Office, consisting of 8 seconds of video footage from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform in 2019. So this one's like phasing or spinning. Hard to say. It definitely looks like it just appeared, though. Oh, no, it's zoomed in. Okay, so it's right there, and it's zoomed into it. Let's see if I can get a good pause. That.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing is that is either coming in and out of the water, or it's spinning and it's incredibly flat and then disc-shaped on its widest part, or it's blinking in and out.
That is extremely odd because you have the cloud in the image too, and you can't say that the video itself is skipping because the cloud's moving just fine.
Right.
That is really weird, dude. I don't even know what to make of that.
No idea.
It's definitely in white hot, and that is a cold object. That is for sure. That's super weird. I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of this.
Those dang VTOL aircraft.
Yeah. I don't think. So the question here that people might be asking is, why is the ocean showing up white and I'm claiming that this is white hot, you got to understand that FLIR uses its environment to decide what the shade of color that they're using. So the cloud that's passing by is obviously extremely cold. So therefore, in respect to the cloud, the ocean is warm. And that's why it's showing up white. If you didn't have anything on the picture that was cold, that ocean would be showing up darker. But it's definitely white hot. And whatever that is, it's cold.
Very weird.
Very weird. I wonder if it is under the water. That would, I mean, it could be, but I don't know. I don't think so. But, you know, looking at things through a FLIR camera a perception of its distance can definitely play games with you.
Here's the arrow comment. Infrared sensor systems capture information within a specific range of electromagnetic wavelengths. When a
Correct.
tracked source's temperature is similar to that of the surrounding environment, it can visually blend into the background or appear to flicker due to dynamic contrast adjustments applied to the system's auto gain control filters.
Correct. Yes. So what they're saying is that this could potentially be shifting its temperature. That could be what the pulsing is, because infrared is picking up on infrared, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's giving off a different thermal signature, or if it's flashing a thermal signature, it would be coming in and out, or look like it's coming in and out of existence just like that. Let's say it's flashing to a similar temperature than of what the ocean is, but then and that could be a thing, Jake. You said that it could be rotating. And that
Mm-hmm.
could very well be what it is, right? When it rotates, a certain portion of it could be a similar temperature to the water, and that's what's giving it the disappearing effect. And then when it rotates to the cold side, we're getting that deep black pit color, which as it's flashing or circulating,
Mm-hmm.
it's giving this in and out of existence effect. And it very well could. This is another one where I would like to see it without infrared.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm willing to bet that would look like a solid object without infrared. Very cool. Very neat.
Well, that's pretty much what I had highlights for the this tranche.
Cool. All right. Well, you got anything else to say to the listeners?
No, I hope there's another one that comes out.
Yeah, when it does, we'll do another episode just like this. But all right, that's it. That's the fourth tranche, start to finish. We covered 40 files from 5 agencies. Now, obviously, we didn't cover all 40. We covered the span of 40, spanning 77 years of history in one release, starting with the secret 1948 conference at Los Alamos, where Edward Teller couldn't explain a green fireball's flight path, and the observation program built to solve it that got shelved before it ever really got going. We walked through Project Sign's first UFO study in 1948, and Carl Sagan telling the Air Force 20 years later that the Blue Book needed to take things more seriously. If you enjoyed tonight's deep dive, please subscribe to Infinite Rabbit Hole wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a rating and review. You can also find us on infiniterabbithole.com, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. We're back next week with another briefing on the unexplained. Until then, keep your eyes open, keep asking questions, and remember the truth is out there. You just have to know where to look. I'm Jeremy Sosha, and we'll see you at the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. If you're looking for more of our stuff, head on over to infiniterabbithole.com, where you can find links to all the podcast players that we are available on, and even our video platforms such as TikTok and YouTube. While you're there, make sure to check out all the links for our socials and hit that follow so you know when all the new stuff from our podcast comes out. And until next time, travelers, we'll see you right here in the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Bye.